Diving into the complex history of the United States, we stumble upon the chilling legacy of slavery, etched into the nation's soil between 1690 and 1865. Men and women forcibly uprooted from their homes on a harrowing journey to America. Once here, the concept of life and liberty became a distant dream as they were thrust into a world of backbreaking labor and unimaginable suffering. Beatings, heart-wrenching separations from loved ones, and the legal absurdity of being treated as mere property regardless of gender became their grim reality. But the story doesn't end here. There's more to uncover about this dark chapter in our history. So, buckle up and keep watching to peel back the layers of a narrative that goes beyond the surface, revealing the untold struggles and resilience of those who endured this painful past. In the shadows of history, a tale unfolds. A story of resilience, exploitation, and the enduring spirit of people. Journey back to the 1600s, when African American slaves were transported to the tobacco plantations of Virginia. Here, their cultural roots were severed, and the ominous grip of slavery took hold. The journey across the Atlantic was a harrowing experience, a forced migration that not only displaced individuals from their homelands, but also stripped them of their humanity. The dehumanizing conditions aboard the slave ships marked the beginning of a tragic chapter in history. The establishment of slavery laws. As the 18th century dawned, slavery laws were etched into the fabric of American society. Slave owners wielded absolute power, controlling every facet of their slaves' lives. From labor to marriage, discipline to living conditions, the chains of oppression tightened until death. This legal framework systematically stripped African American slaves of their basic human rights, relegating them to a status akin to property rather than individuals with agency. The cruelty embedded in these laws became the foundation upon which an entire system of dehumanization was built. The cruel sexual exploitation. Because owners held authority over their slaves' bodies, female slaves were vulnerable both within the French Atlantic region and beyond. These women were mistreated in every manner by white men, whether they were on slave ships during the Middle Passage, working in the cane fields of Sandig, or performing household tasks in the towns and villages of New France. The exploitation of female slaves reached a disturbing level, where their bodies were not only subject to labor, but also treated as objects of desire for pleasure of those in power. After being taken aboard the slave ship and having their clothes taken away, women were confined to the quarterdeck during the day, where they were allowed to eat, clean up, and dance. Slave traffickers believed that exercise was essential to maintaining the enslaved health. Thus, they had both male and female slaves dance. Men usually maintained time to the beating of shackles on the deck, while women frequently danced to the sounds of instruments. Many women covered their breasts with shamefaced crouching. The shipboard exploitation. Since it was thought that female slaves lacked the physical power to rise up and take control of the ship during the day, they were not placed in irons. The men were kept in irons on the main deck and a portion of the quarterdeck when the weather allowed. A barrier split the ship and kept them apart from the women. The white officers had easy access to the women because the women's living quarters were located below deck, close to the officer berths. In actuality, the ladies had to ascend steps that went through the officers' quarters in order to go from the slave deck to the quarterdeck. Sexual approaches were therefore commonplace, and a commander would usually select a female slave to serve him in bed and at the table. A few sailors enlisted in slaving expeditions in order to have unrestricted access to African women. The physical separation between men and women did little to protect them from predatory actions of those in power. Officers took advantage of their positions, perpetuating the dehumanization that plagued every aspect of enslaved lives. The rise of mixed-race offspring. The consequences of this exploitation echoed through generations. White men's abuse resulted in numerous mixed-race offspring. In the French Caribbean, as in other parts of the Americas, Afro-European populations grew, bearing witness to the tragic legacy of enslaved women. The mixed-race offspring became a living testament to the brutality endured by female slaves. These children, born from a history of pain and exploitation, faced a unique set of challenges as they navigated a world that struggled to acknowledge their identity and the systemic injustices that shaped their existence. Louisa's story. Amid the vast archives, one story emerges: the blatant sexual exploitation of Louise, a Spanish slave. Sold for barrels of wine, her tragic tale reveals the prevalent silence in historical records. concealing the widespread abuse suffered by female slaves at the hands of their white male owners. Louise, a Spanish slave who came from Quebec in the summer of 1727, was involved in one of the most blatant instances of sexual exploitation documented. Captain Pierre Doto sold 25-year-old Louise to Louisbourg innkeeper Jean Sewer so that he could employ her as a servant in his establishment. For Louise, Sewer gave Doto 2 barrels of red wine, and he promised to finish the deal with 2 more barrels of wine the next year. But by February 1728, Sewer discovered Louise was 8 or 9 months pregnant, making her unfit to work as a servant in his home. In order to prevent public scandal, it was common in Louisbourg, as well as throughout France, to discharge servant females upon becoming pregnant. After Louise's previous owner impregnated her, Sewer decided not to keep her for 2 reasons. First, she set a bad example for his family, particularly his young children, and second, he could not use her services at his inn. Rape and sexual harassment were commonplace among female slaves in Isle Royale. The call for justice. Beyond the era of slavery, Black Americans faced harsh discrimination, perpetuating a social hierarchy of racial, class, and gender norms. The rise of mixed-race offspring reflected the deep-rooted abuse culture, amplifying the struggles faced by Black women in their quest for justice. Towards a better future. To dismantle the structures that uphold prejudice, we must acknowledge past misdeeds. Legislation, public discourse, and educational campaigns stand as essential strategies. By elevating the voices of Black women, we gain a more profound understanding of the nuances of race, gender, and power. Acknowledging the historical injustices is a crucial first step towards a better future. The first step is acknowledging the historical injustices and ensuring that the pain of Black female slaves is never erased from our collective memory. And there you have it, the untold stories of Black female slaves that history almost swept under the rug. Their struggles, resilience, and triumph should not be forgotten, but ignite in us a fervor for change. It's time to actively shape a society where justice, equality, and respect aren't just lofty ideals, but tangible realities for everyone, regardless of gender, color, or origin. If you found this journey through history insightful and eye-opening, hit that like button, subscribe for more enlightening content, and share this narrative. By spreading awareness and understanding, we contribute to a world where everyone's story is acknowledged and respected. Let's build that future together.